All right.
Here we are back again.
Episode 7.
7, man.
7.
Well into February
Lucky
now.
number 7.
There we go.
Yeah, we are deep into February now. 2 episodes into February, 7 episodes in. I'm super excited, man.
Yeah. This week we are recording it a couple days early, and we'll get into that in a little bit why we're recording it early. As most of you know, we typically record on Sunday nights. Although this week we're super excited to be welcoming a guest. We'll give them that.
Yeah, we have a guest. Yeah,
We got a guest.
Yeah.
Super excited for this guest.
Well, if they're listening, then they have no clue who the guest is. But if they're watching this and we potentially use the video for the entire thing, because this is also the first time we're video recording our podcast.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this, you already know, like you're looking at the guest right now. There's no surprises.
No, not at all.
Well, unless we just use that one right there for the beginning.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do that just to keep the suspense up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, but I'm super excited for this week. I think that we're going to have a super cool conversation with this guy, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So first, before we get to our much hyped up guest here, much deserved, let's talk about our week, man. This is for everyone that is tuning in for the very first time after that lengthy intro. This is Diary of an Indie Band. Welcome to our podcast. This is the Inside the Minds of Loops. This is a place where we get to show you what makes us tick, have some fun in the process. It's an accountability checklist for us. Every single week, we make sure we update the diary entries and we give you kind of the ins and outs of what it takes to make it as an indie band in Canada in 2022 in British Columbia.
Absolutely.
So I am Kevin Roy. You are?
I'm John.
John, no last name. It's like Adele.
That's it, right?
He's now transitioned from John Fennell to Adele.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay. Superstar status, man. If you can go by just first name only, Kobe, LeBron,
Prince.
Yeah. I've mentioned athletes.
I know, right?
Ronaldo.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Beyonce.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's a teaser.
It's a little tease.
That's a little teaser. It's a guy. The guest is a guy.
Yeah. This past week, I mean, it's going to be a little bit of a shorter week in our review here because obviously we recorded on Sunday. Today is Friday. Yeah. We'll be releasing this episode, I believe, on Valentine's Day, this upcoming Monday.
Yeah, Monday, like always. You should have it Monday morning. You should listen to this.
But you know what? Even in those 4 or 5 days that it's been since Sunday, it's been a really, really good week. Getting lots and lots done. We put up our posts about the album release party. Those tickets are on sale now. I think that we've sold about 20 tickets so far of the 50 that are available.
Yeah, so fingers crossed. It's not like we're stressing out over this, but this is one of those best of a worst case scenario kind of situations. Like it's like, okay, we're excited that we're gonna definitely sell out, but we want more than 50 people at the show ideally. So fingers crossed that Bonnie Henry ends up adjusting things a little bit. Alberta, I guess, just lifted their vaccine mandate. So like the passports at least. So and in Saskatchewan as well. So fingers crossed that before the show it comes on the 25th. So we got almost just under 2 weeks. 2 weeks
over 2 weeks.
2 weeks from today, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there we go. From today. But when you're listening to it, it'll be just under 2 weeks. And the fact that we've already sold almost half the tickets is awesome. But if you are thinking of coming, and more importantly, even then, I'll speak to the people that are listening to this podcast. If you're listening to the podcast, you're an ardent supporter of Loops or Jeremy Kneeshaw or both. I just gave away who are.
I mean, you didn't have to.
Who the person is. That's what. No, we've already mentioned Jeremy's going to be opening for us.
We
didn't
did.
I?
Yeah, exactly.
So everyone knows Jeremy's opening for us on the Friday. So if you're a supporter of Jeremy Kneeshaw, who's opening for us, or you're a supporter of Loops or both, then you need to get those tickets fast because there's only 50 and people are already snagging them. We don't want people to say, hey, like I wish I got my tickets in time, and they show up at the door. Showing up at the door, I don't think is going to be an option, unfortunately, for the show. Unless, like I said, unless they end up expanding it and it goes to 100. So fingers crossed that it's not just 50% capacity. Get them in quick. I mean, hey, if there's enough demand for it and it still stays at 50, but they sell out really, really fast and people still want tickets, maybe we get a second show. We'll figure that out on the fly. But
absolutely. So, So, I mean, even beyond that this week, I mean, we've had a lot of good conversations planning our upcoming tour. So we're going to we decided on our tour. It's called the Coast to Coast Tour, where we're going to be playing shows this upcoming summer. So April and May will be in BC and Alberta. And then come August, we're going to be doing an Eastern Canada tour. I guess we're also going to be in Manitoba.
Yeah, I was gonna let you finish what you're gonna say, and then I was gonna kind of interject that just so everyone's clear. Like the Western Canada leg is gonna be in that BC Alberta. So
that's gonna be the majority of it, but we will also be able to get as far as Winnipeg.
And obviously these things are fluid, and this is a big part of the show, and what we hold a lot of pride in is that we're very candid, we're very vulnerable. You know, we're like, this is a diary entry of us. So sometimes you say things in diaries or journals, and you look back on it later and you're embarrassed because you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I was thinking that even at the time. I've changed so much. But there's a certain level of charm to that. And like I've said many times, accountability and holding ourselves to certain things, but also realizing that things are fluid and things change. So as of right now, the game plan is go from BC, make our way all the way to John's hometown of Winnipeg, and then turn around and head all the way back. There's enough of a gap between Winnipeg and pretty much the next major stop of Thunder Bay in Ontario that doesn't really make sense to incorporate them together. And that's why we kind of broke up this coast to coast tour. So that way it's Western Canada is leg 1, and then Ontario is leg 2, which is my stomping grounds, and you have family there as well. So
exactly,
we'll give you guys a lot more information on that, but the seeds have already been planted this last week. So that's another good thing from this week, is that we're starting to kind of plant the seeds and get contacts in place to actually do those shows. Ideally, we'll reach out to, friends and colleagues of ours to help us play some of those dates, even if they're big enough draws. Even just if people can make, a week of the 3-week tour or whatever, and they can come part way and then they go back home, and then we finish out the rest by ourselves or whatever. If you are one of our friends, colleagues, feel free to let us know if that's something that you're interested in. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. That's something that's definitely on deck as well.
Absolutely.
Myself, a big thing that I was also working on this week was, you were saying we got the poster and we got the event set up for the actual album release party with Jeremy. A big thing that I was working on this week again was just posters for all the events we have coming up.
Which, by the way, if you want to know where those are, check out our website, officialloops.com. All of our dates are posted on there, and you can find the event pages on Facebook. You can find ticket links for the album release party and whatever else.
Absolutely. And that's a big thing we were working on too. Actually, I'm glad you said that. Is we're always fine-tuning the webpage. If you've been following all 6 episodes prior to this, you would see even the evolution of things we've talked about, where we're working on the webpage and trying to make it better and better and more professional. And we just want to represent us where we are now, but also the best case version of us. So we're getting everyone seeing the best version of Loops, so they realize what they're capable of, purchasing on shows. If they want to help out, get the album out there, anything, right? Radio play, all that stuff. We want to make sure that they're getting the best version. We're putting our best foot forward. And that's a constant evolving thing. We didn't just hit the ball out of the park, the very first swing. Obviously, we've evolved that webpage. It's come a really far way since we started it up last June. I'm really proud of where it's at now. So if you haven't checked it out yet, add it, make it onto your bookmark page. Go and give it a peruse. And the events page is a big thing that we worked on this week. I made posters for a half dozen shows just over the next 3 or 4 weeks. They should all be updated on this by the time anyone's listening to this. They'll be on there, and the event page has gone from just a list of shows to a nice fluid thing where you'll have the poster, a little caption, a little synopsis of kind of what you can expect from that venue. If there is a show like the 25th at the Effie, you can click on a link and you can go buy tickets directly from the actual webpage. So we're trying to make it as user-friendly as we can, but that takes work and takes time. And know firsthand, we both wear lots of hats in the Loops band. I've said this many times in here, and if you are a band and you're trying to navigate the waters like we are, one of the best pieces of advice I could give is just don't be afraid to delegate roles to people that are their strengths. Don't just give someone a role for the sake of doing it and they're just going to get stressed out. It's just going to cause, and that was a big thing we did early on. We divided up roles, but we didn't figure out what would be something that John's really good at or John would enjoy. What would Kevin be good at, enjoy? And if neither of us are good at something, we'll tag team it together. Right. But we didn't do that at the beginning, and it caused a lot of stress and stuff just wasn't productive. Now we're good at the things that we do. We enjoy them. They're challenges. I love making the posters. I think I do a pretty good job on them. I think they're pretty cool and unique. And it's something that's fun. And even though it takes a lot of time, I like the result that comes out of it. So, and you take the lead when it comes to booking. I take the lead when it comes to calling places. Like, we found our lanes and we're very comfortable in them, but it's the difference between working hard and working smart. And we worked really, really hard at the beginning. we weren't always working smart. We weren't being efficient in our efforts.
That's been one of our biggest mottos this upcoming year. And actually touch on two things that I want to mention before we move on to our next thing. One of them is also, you can find, if you don't know where to find our podcast, you can find it on our website. We've got a page dedicated for that.
That's
you can
new
find
as well,
all the information directly on our website. And then the second thing is also, we've got upcoming merchandise, special edition merchandise this upcoming week.
That's right. Yeah. We had our meeting on Monday.
Yeah. So we're super excited for that. When they come in, we'll probably put up a big post about it.
Yes.
And whatever else, and we'll chat about it later on.
But they're going to, we'll let you know a little bit. I think we might have mentioned this last episode. My memory is a little foggy on if we actually mentioned it or not. But if we did, that's okay. This is just a recap. If we didn't mention it yet, this is fresh. But it's going to be a special album release t-shirt that's going to be part of a merch package that you can get, like a swag bag that will include the album. It will include a face mask because it's during the quarantine, so it's fitting. And it will have the shirt. I don't even mind describing the shirt. That's okay. It will entice people to be excited about it. It's going to have the album cover on the front. On the back, it's going to have a list of the actual songs from the album. So it's like you're looking at the album front and back. And then it's also going to have Loop's debut album, February 25th, 2022. Now, the cool thing about these shirts, the reason why it's important for us to tell this early, is that they're going to be numbered out of 50. So it's just a limited run. There's only going to be 50 made, and each one's going to have its own individual number. So if you're a collector like myself, I love collecting sports cards. It's been a fun thing I've done with Sebastian this year. I started doing it in the summertime, and we both really enjoyed it. When things are numbered and they're limited edition, they're one of 50 or whatever. They always a little bit more value to that. And even just sentimentally, you know, I'm being a big sports fan. Number 10 is my number. Like, that's my go-to. So I've already claimed the number 10 shirt. I bought it myself out of my money. You bought out of your money the 13.
Yeah, I think that we've got about 6 or 7 different shirts that are already allocated.
Claimed. And that's why I wanted to mention it. Alina already claimed 14. So if there is a certain number you want, you're like, you know what, I'm going to buy the shirt anyways.
And I want the specific number.
Yeah, let us know early. We will put it aside. It's the same rule we're kind of applying to when we do covers at a show. All we say is just splash something in the tip jar. It literally could be a nickel. It could be $20. It doesn't matter. It's just the principle of it. So if you want it early, cool. You can claim your number. All you got to do is splash something in the tip jars. And then basically we will put it aside. We'll make sure that, and if the reason why you want to do it early is if, say, number 41 is your favorite number, and you're like, I'm going to buy a shirt regardless that night, I want number 41. Well, you might get there and we don't know that 41 is going to be someone that wears an XL or someone that wears a small. So we have a certain amount of each size of shirt we're going to be ordering to make sure there's enough of the supply and demand. So 41 is just going to be a random size unless somebody actually claims it as their own. So I don't know it yet. I should know it by next podcast at the latest, but I might know it earlier. And depending on when that date is, there's going to be a specific cutoff date when we have to have all the actual specific sizes designated for what number of the 50 they're going to be. Yeah. So I've already contacted our merch person at All About Imprint, who we love and we hype up all the time. And Kyla Marshall is our merch girl, and she's part of our team. And I've already mentioned to her, hey, give us a cutoff so that way we can get these numbers in. So if you are watching this or listening to this, please let us know early as you can and get your number claimed. And if not, you'll just whatever. If you need an XL, there will be probably 6 different options of numbers, and you just get whatever one you get.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? I think that's a cool way to tie into our new music segment. As in, we're going to be talking about our guest. Yes. So you mentioned it before, but our guest this week, which we haven't done a guest yet, and we intentionally haven't been doing guests because we want to make sure that we know what we're doing before we incorporate somebody else into this podcast.
Well, and truthfully, we're also not professional podcasters. We're doing this for John and Kevin. So we're doing this very selfishly. We haven't apologized for that. We're owning it. This is for us to get better at our craft, to be accountable, to do a living, breathing podcast diary. And
absolutely,
these entries are for us, and we're so happy to share them with everybody that's listening. And we've had incredible feedback, like way better than we ever anticipated. We've said it so many times. If it was like my mom and my dad and your mom and your dad exactly. and Alina and you know Sebastian, and like if it was just important people in our lives that were listening to it and that's it, we would have been perfectly content with that. Absolutely. We've had a bunch more people. Again, shout out to our Belgian followers.
Yeah, exactly.
Have been listening in Belgium.
Consistently
listening in Belgium. We don't know who you are. So email us, dib@officialloops.com. We want to hear your story. Give us a top 5.
How do you guys find us?
Yeah.
Let us know.
I'm stoked because day 2, they were already, Belgium was like on the RSS.
It's one of the biggest, the biggest
Love it.
places
Love
that
Belgium.
we
We got to play Belgium.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but we were good regardless. But we also recognize that like we didn't go to, journalism school. We're not professional interviewers. We're not going to try to, have a pretense of we're going to interview a bunch of people and, be great at this right out of the chute. We're not. Of
course.
So we thought, what's a way to incorporate some of the people that we care about, that we support, that we really want to help elevate? And like I've said so many times, rising tide lifts all ships. So if we can help out the people around us, and sometimes, it's more of a help to us than it is to them, but let's work together. Let's share some stories of the people that we really care about and get their story out there, even if it's just to our followers that maybe don't know they exist. That's why we do the new music. Like you said, it ties together perfectly with our guest. And that's why we wanted to make sure when we do a guest, it's something meaningful. We're not doing a guest every single week just for the sake of a guest. We're not doing an interview because we're great at interviews, because we never interviewed anyone before.
We're going to see how it goes.
But we wanted to occasionally, if it's warranted, make a special diary entry for this person. So this week it's the first diary entry of Someone Nuts Not Loops. This is officially episode 7, is the diary entry, journal entry of Jeremy Kneeshaw.
We're super excited to have you here, Jeremy.
Thank you. Yes, I'm honored to be the first guinea pig guest on
the experiment,
on the
man.
podcast. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we're super excited. I mean, you're born and raised here in Kamloops. Am I right about that?
You're right.
Okay, great. So my research thus far is correct.
Yeah, tracking me down.
You are a singer, a songwriter, guitarist, pianist,
producer,
drummer, accordion player. I saw in your bio. You've got so many different hats that you wear for yourself.
Producer, man. He has his own studio.
Yes.
He owns and records multiple artists and other kind of things within his studio. Super, super cool. I'm flattered that you agreed to join us, not only for this, but also for our album release party, which comes on February 25th.
Definitely. Yes. Well, I'm honored to be involved. I think that my role as a musician in our community is just to try to help people make music, and like you said it best yourself, Kevin, the rising tide lifts all ships, and, we need some lifting. And I think anybody who's crazy enough to still be in the music scene after 2 years of COVID are the ones that really believe in it.
Absolutely.
Really think that it's worth putting the work in, and you guys are working hard. You guys have a lot of things you're doing. You have creative merch, you've got good shows, you got good connections. Great studio album that you're pumping, and if I can help that at all, if I can be a part of that, and get Kamloops on the map as far as a town that is a legitimate place with good music,
then
that's my purpose here. That's what I believe. So
sweet. Well, we appreciate it, man, and we're believe me, as much as you're putting some praise on us, we're bigger fans of you. Even we think you're awesome, and I've said it so many times. It's important, like you illustrated, where I say it all the time about the rising tide. And I just think at the end of the day, like this is a grind, man. It's a tough gig. Yep. We all got into it because it's fun, and we're, I've always joked. I said it recently on another interview that we had with Lee's Music when we did that whole segment. In a certain way, in a charming way, like musicians are the most motivated people I've ever met. And in some ways, most musicians I've met are also lazy as well. And we all got into this because we just want to do something fun. We don't want to go and, work these hard jobs, manual labor and all that. We want to just have fun and entertain and be social and do what we love doing. So there's an inherent dichotomy of it being laziness that's also completely wrapped in ambition and motivation and drive. And I absolutely love that. I think sometimes it's like that Jekyll and Hyde, that we either get too much on the motivation side, that musicians as a whole in a community can be focused on what they're doing and forgetting that there's other people that could use or gain from their assistance. And then sometimes I think it's that laziness or that lack of wanting to kind of conform and fall into like that pattern. And I say laziness, it sounds like such an ugly word. I don't mean it in that regard. Yeah. Hopefully it's coming across properly. Yep. But I think that can hurt as well too, right? Sometimes it's that fear to kind of work and realize that, hey, if I put effort into somebody else, yes, that's taking away from time that I can be putting effort into myself. But on the whole, that's actually benefiting me as well as that other person more in the grand scheme of things. So I want to give you just that much more praise that since I've come across musicians in this town, and a lot of people know my story that before Loops, I was playing in different cover bands and I was the karaoke cop and all that stuff. So it's not like this is fresh to me. Like I've been in the music scene in Kamloops since I first got here in 2009. Honestly, man, like without a shadow of a lie, like you are the biggest team player that I've come across in this region. And I think that's the coolest thing. And you have my utmost respect for that. So thanks so much for joining again our platform and joining our podcast, because it's an honor for us.
For sure. It's an honor for me as well. Thanks, guys.
So now that we got the glowing praise out of the way, let's just be, chill. And we're going to talk about new music, I guess, first.
Absolutely. So, I'm not going to keep going on. I'm so glad that you're here, right?
You're going to keep making me blush the whole time.
Exactly. Right. That's my goal at the end of this podcast. See how ready you can get. But we're going to be talking about your music, because this week on New Music, we're going to be talking about specifically Jeremy Kneeshaw and about his songs that Kevin and I both picked. We both picked one of your songs.
Yeah.
And then we are going to tell you why we picked those songs. And then we want to hear a backstory on why these songs came to light. It's something different that we haven't done before. I mean, we've done it for our own songs because we know those.
Yeah, we told the story of Parachute. We told the story of Checking Out.
Absolutely.
But the other songs that we've submitted, and Jeremy, you were telling us, you listen to the podcast, you're familiar with the episodes and our format. So anyone that's listening, if this is your first time jumping in and you haven't listened to the other 6, go listen to them right after this. And just to give a little context, like the big benefit of this is of this segment is this is our kind of thank you to everybody else. And this is, if we could be on someone's podcast, we said it so many times, we'd be so flattered and humbled, and we would appreciate it. Even if 2 listeners listen to it, just for somebody else to pick one of our songs as their song and tell a little story. But at the end of the day, as much as we're doing our absolute best, we try to build a connection with the artists that we pick each week. And we always try to pick like an indie artist or someone that could use a little bit of extra exposure. We don't really know the backstory. We don't know the context of the song. We only know what they've presented, or maybe
we don't even know the artist, right? We don't even know where they're coming from. I mean,
we've known a couple. Pete, I knew, Chris Niles, but other than that, like they've been artists we've never even met, right? And that's awesome, and that's part of the charm of what we're doing.
But everything that we find out about them is what we find through their website or their Instagram page,
or maybe a short chat on a messenger, right? So this is really cool for us to be able to actually get a little behind the scenes, like get a little, VH1,
we talk
behind
about
the scenes music, right?
Inside the mind of Loops. We want to hear about the inside the mind of Jeremy Kneeshaw.
That's gonna be the whole point of this ep. Yeah, we're gonna break it apart. This is gonna be like a therapy session. By the end, he's just weeping in my arms. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. Yeah. John made you read it. It's okay.
Why we got the therapy dog.
We got a therapy dog. Right. We got Jake, our official mascot, right on his lap. If you hear him in the background. So yeah, this is good. Like I said many times, this is gonna be Jeremy's diary entry. Loops are just kind of featured in it.
Yeah.
If you're reading this like a book, I mean, this is the Jeremy page. So
absolutely,
we're gonna dive right into these songs. We also asked him to provide us a song as well. As is always tradition, we always bring forward a new music entry. So we've asked Jeremy to bring forward one of his songs as well, and that way he can pick which one he wants to talk about too.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have 3 songs we're gonna play, we're gonna discuss, and you're gonna get a little behind the scenes from Mr. Kneeshaw himself. So we're pretty excited about this. John, you want to go first?
Absolutely. So I'm gonna get into it. The song that I picked for my Jeremy Kneeshaw entry is "Wasting My Time."
Oh, thank you.
Which is off of the Jeremy Kneeshaw album, Volume 2, which came out in 2019, I believe.
Yes.
So before we start moving forward and talking about why we picked this song, we're going to play a little bit of a clip right here.
Yeah, we'll play first.
All right.
Sitting on the back porch, it's 11:45 and I've wasted another long day. It's halfway through August, and business is slow, and my summer is drifting away. I wish I knew how to ditch this old town and to go write the legend of me. And I don't know why I try to say, 'cause I'm going on down with a fight. I got this feeling that something ain't right. As I wait for you to tell me I can't tonight.
That was so good.
I like it, man.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. That's probably my favorite one that I heard of all of your stuff. And I think that there's like a couple different reasons why. And I mean, I could get into like the instrumental reasons why I like it, and I can get into, you know, the story and the lyrics behind it and that kind of stuff as well. And then I think that one of the biggest things is the emotion of the song is something that we talk about like over and over on our podcast, of course.
Absolutely.
But that really swallows me up when I listen to it, because I made sure that I was listening to it like properly and like proper headphones and like just get lost in the album, right? So I was stoked when I heard that, and I'm pretty sure that's like the last song on the album.
Yeah.
Am I correct with that one?
Yeah, it is.
I'm like, dude.
A strong way to end.
Yeah, exactly. For me, that's like, I mean, it's not a banger, but it's like, you know, it's up there with that like emotional swallow up, and it's such a nice way to close.
It's actually funny because you say a lot like that. Even with some of our songs, if they catch you on the album, you're like, oh, that feels like a movie soundtrack song. Like that song to me feels like a movie soundtrack song. Like that could be in like the climax scene, you know, of you know, the emotional heart of the film, and that's kind of playing over almost like a borderline montage. Like that's just where it takes me when I'm listening to it. And I mean, that's the highest praise I think you can give, right? At the end of the day.
Definitely.
I mean,
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So we want to hear the story behind the song. Like, where did it come from?
Definitely. Yeah. I think songs are such an interesting amalgamation of different things. I mean, that lick it's an A2 to a D2. So you just pull whatever your bottom finger is off the chord, and you just back and forth between those two. And I came up with that, man. I was like, I don't know, 16 or something.
Yeah.
It's mostly at figuring out if the guitar was in tune. If that lick sounds good, then I know the guitar's in tune, right? So I was struggling with that idea. I mean, the first verse talks about how, you know, sort of the dichotomy that you were talking about, Kevin, about how, you know, this battle between being passionate and really wanting to see success in your career and having to deal with the fact that, you know, it's viewed as laziness, or it's viewed as, you know, not wanting to conform to. And it was tough. I mean, my way of being brought up was not one that suggested that doing music full time was a good idea. It wasn't, you know, feasible.
I hear you.
You know, get a job. You know, what are you doing? Get a haircut and get a job. Like, you know, you need to build a life for yourself, so you're not
time to grow up.
Yeah,
like, that's just a dream. Like, come on.
And so I was doing that, and I mean, it was halfway through August, and business was slow, and I was like, you know, as a gigging musician, you're like, man, that means September's coming up. That means winter's coming up. That means you know, we're on the back half of the summer already, and if I don't have things booked, you know, and so you're struggling with that. And I remember just like I was at my mom's house, just looking out of the river, and it was the middle of the night, and I was playing my guitar, and the song just kind of fell together. And I was always really torn about it, because it's just a note or two above where I'm comfortable singing.
Right.
And, you know, I didn't want to detune the guitar, because you can do that.
Of course, yeah.
But it's all about those big open strummy chords, right? So I was like, so I sang it, and I've always wanted to like have a really powerful, like Alicia Keys style singer sing it, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the emotion comes through, right? And even though I'm not super comfortable with my vocal performance, the emotion behind the song really came out in that. And that was what I was kind of hoping for, because, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to be the best singer. I'm trying to play something that somebody can empathize with. Somebody can, you know, there's a feeling in the music that brings a feeling out of you, right?
Well, I can relate with that, actually, because in the process of us making some different songs, there's been times where I felt as the lead singer, I'm like, this is recently, even as we were coming up with a couple, where I'm like, I don't feel that. I'm kind of just pushing myself at that one. If we drop it down, even just throw that capo down, you know, one fret, then it would be easier, and I could just power through this. And we go through it, and how many times have it been like, it just doesn't feel the same though.
The same.
And I'm crushing the vocals. I'm like, oh man, I could do this 10 times in a row at a show. Like, this is easy vocals now, and it's the best vocal performance. But now I've lost the emotion that's coming out just from where that sweet spot. Exactly. It's like kind of like when you're adjusting, you know, the focus on like, you know, binoculars or something, and it's like you're almost there. Oh, this is the sweet spot. Yeah. And it honestly, like, as much as I love vocals and being the vocalist, I always take that to heart. It does. It starts with the music. It starts with the melody. It starts with just, it has to capture you and pull you in. And I think you would have lost the emotional resonance if you did drop that down, to be honest. So that's so cool that you were dialed in on that. That's a good sign of like where you were maturely as an artist at that point.
Yeah.
Because maybe years earlier, I know you'd made your first album 2015.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and
You were 19 at the time or something like that?
yeah. So the first album came out, 2015, and I was, just turned 19, but I had started recording that album when I was 17. And then I started recording this next one almost immediately after, but it didn't get released until 2019. So there was a few years in there where the songs were half finished and most of it was written. It was just kind of finding time to get into the studio,
Exactly.
you know the story. And so, I mean, definitely that song came out of me when probably about 18 or 19, I think, when I wrote it. And I kind of believe like, songs aren't always supposed to be easy for you to sing,
absolutely.
and sometimes it's part of the performance is the challenge that it is as a performer to perform it. Right. Because I think that's what people connect with. People want to feel something, right? It's not,
Of course.
that people don't want to just be blasted with the best musician's music in the world. They want to feel something. That's what the point of music is.
Absolutely.
Right?
Exactly.
And I think that song captured that better than I could have hoped for.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
So listening to the song back, is there anything that you think like taking away from that like you might have not realized before, like in that moment? Or is there anything that you wish you might have like done a little bit differently now that we're talking about it? Do you wish you did it like a half step down or something like that and detuned it?
I've thought a lot about that over the years, especially for my first album, because I feel like musically I'm, 10 times the musician I was when I was recording the first ones. And like, and not just like being good, but like learning technicalities and things, like learning how to make the noises that I want, getting an organ to sound the way I want an organ to sound, those kinds of things. And it just took years of practice. But kind of the same way that you guys are doing with this podcast, I think it's nice to have a record of where you were at the time.
Absolutely.
Right. And like, as there's a few spots, like, I mean, there's mistakes. And of course, because I recorded all the instruments and vocals myself, like, it's not like recording a band off the floor. You're double tracking everything. Right. And so sometimes you're recording a guitar part, not knowing what the lead part is going to sound like until after it's recorded. And so, you're kind of working backwards a lot of the time. So, I mean, there's moments in any of my albums where I'm like, oh, I could have done that better. Or maybe, a different key would have been better for my voice, or, this was out of tune or whatever. But also part of me says like, that was where I was at the time. Yeah. And it's fun to listen back to it and be like, oh yeah, like, oh, that's, I thought that was the coolest thing when I was in the studio or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
It's like going through a photo album and looking at how you've evolved over the years and changed physically, right? Like this is a reflection of how you've evolved and matured as an artist.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally.
That's the charm to it.
Absolutely. So that being said, I want to get into the next song here, which is one of Kev's songs that he picked. So I want Kev to kind of give us a little bit of a setup into it.
Absolutely. So I had a song ready to go, and as we were prepping for
At like 9 a.m. this morning.
I was told what Jeremy's song was going to be, and I was like, oh, that's my song. So I'm really excited to get your background on that. So I get a 2-for-1, by the way. So now I get the explanation on the song I picked, because that's the one I know. I'm not going to say it yet, but I know the one you're picking.
Okay. Yeah.
And so yeah, I definitely endorse your choice. Okay. And so I went back and I'm like, okay, I had a couple others I was thinking as well. And then I listened this morning. I listened again just through volume 3, because I felt a connection with that album. It was really standing out to me. And maybe it is to be honest, because we like to be really candid and open and vulnerable on this podcast. Personally, like I always loved the instrumentals, but I'm a vocalist, right? As we all know. So it's going on what you said, your vocals have improved significantly since your early albums.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I think you can understand, like, I don't think it's a surprise that volume 3 for me is your strongest vocal performance. So that's the one that, even if it's just subconsciously, maybe I'm getting drawn more to those songs, because I'm like, whereas the instrumental, like a lifetime of doing music, it's no different than John, right? Like John's instrumentals were always strong right from day one. Your vocals have just leaps and bounds over the years, gotten better and better. So you could go, and if you were just listening to instrumentals, a John Fennell song from early days still stands up with something you make today, because the roots and the foundation was put there with years and years of classical training and et cetera, et cetera. That's where you guys kind of share a bond. Where vocally, it's just upgraded so much. So the one that I picked was Break My Heart.
Nice. Cool.
I loved it. I will talk about it, but let's listen to it first.
All right.
Music comes from heartbreak. All the best lyrics come from blame. I really don't know how to tell you this, darling, but I can't remember life before your name. And I don't know what tomorrow brings. And I don't know where to start, but if you want me back there again, it's starting to look like I guess you're gonna have to break my heart.
I like it, man.
Oh, dude.
That's cool.
I don't like it. Like, I love that song.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly, right?
So I'm going to say something that I haven't ever said before, ever, in the history of loops.
Whoa.
Yeah, legitimately. By all means, I'm not trying to put Jeremy on the spot. This is just my thought and feelings on this. But man, I would love to cover that song. Like, and give it respect and obviously the honor it deserves. But that's the first time I've found a peer that, and I've had some great musicians we've come across and we're friends with and we love their song, but I'm always just like, that's them, and they're in their lane, and loops are in such a unique, different lane that like it doesn't, nothing even feels transparent that I could kind of cover it over to us. But I mean, I think that's part of the charm of us too, right? And that's why we've all become kind of fast friends, is because we kind of, our lanes are kind of very similar. And yeah, that's something that if you ever were comfortable with it enough, obviously I'm sure it's a vulnerable song, obviously, but man, it's such a cool song, dude. I love it. As we were listening to it, I'm kind of like I can't hear it without harmonizing to it. Yeah. I love the like, oh man, the falsetto is so cool, and like it's a great song, dude. And I relate with it. Like, I felt so connected to the lyrics of the song, and I just felt like, I don't care. You're amazing. I know that this is going to end shitty, I guess, but whatever, man. You're just going to have to do it because, you know, the juice is worth the squeeze. Like, it's worth it.
So one of the things as well is, I'm pretty sure I read it somewhere, either on your bio or your website or Facebook or something like that. But like, you categorize yourself as like a fusion kind of like musician with jazz and funk, maybe. There were like 3 different ones, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm correct, that there was an award that you won.
Yes.
Out in the States.
Whoa, tell us about that.
2016, the Academia Forward Funk Fusion Award, I think it was called. That's a new song of 2016. That was from my first album. It was a song called Summer Love.
Nice.
That I won that one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'd be honored to do that. And to me, I think all of my recorded music that is available is really only ever a jumping off point for live performance. Yes. I think that live performance is really where it's at. And like, I have, my band, when we play this song, like, I would so much rather someone come out to the show and experience that song in a live capacity, right? Because it's fun and it's groovy and it's sort of flowy and like, I like the recording of it. It's awesome. Like, I'm happy with the recording, but I always think that the recording should only ever be, an avenue, firstly for my band guys to learn the parts. And secondly, like, so people can hear it and be like, oh, I'd love to see this guy live, or I'd love to see Loops cover this song, or I'd love whatever, right?
Yeah.
Right. My songs aren't mine. I was able to pen them and able to get them recorded, but they're not my art. They're the world's art, right? That's why they're online. That's why people can listen to them, people can hear them, people can empathize with them, and hopefully people can cover them.
It's a very cool way of looking at it, I would say.
That's actually amazing that you say that. Have you ever heard, so my dad actually gave me this big, long speech about this about 2 years ago, when we got in like a little groove in early 2020, when we were just like rhyming off songs after song. We were really, really thriving. And I was like, sometimes I feel like I'm not writing them as much as they're kind of flowing through me. And he was like, yeah, he's like, that's what inspiration means. And if, I don't know if you were aware even, but the word inspiration, actually the core of the word and where it comes from is the spirit within. So it's basically it's almost like a inspiration is that the spirit in the universe is kind of speaking through you. You're just a conduit to it.
Definitely.
So it's so cool you say that, because it's like, sometimes I've been like, yeah, I don't know if I just feel like that song, I could hear it in my head clear as day. And I said that on the Chris Niles episode, and he wrote back to me, he's like, welcome to the club. He's like, you've leveled up as a writer. If you're at that point where you're just, you feel like the song's already half written when you're just getting it out. He's like, you're just that much more in tune with yourself and as a writer, but you're just kind of connecting with something bigger than all of us.
Oh, exactly.
So it's like whether John Lennon wrote Imagine, Freddie's writing Fat Bottom Girls, like whatever it is, Adele, is writing somebody like you, like whatever that song is, right? Or you're writing Break Your Heart. It's basically, it's a conduit to get that song out there for everybody. I said break your heart. It's break my heart. I apologize.
What a guy.
I realized it as I was saying it, but I didn't want to correct myself and miss my point. But yeah, you're just a conduit for the universe to basically experience that song. People needed to hear that song in that time, in that moment. And case in point, like it really rattled me, man. I was like, this is such a freaking awesome, cool freaking song, man. I really, really like it a lot.
That's amazing. And that's the point.
Thanks for writing it, man. Like legit.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, and that it changed my life as a musician, coming to that realization is musicians don't create music. They just translate music. Music exists all around us. The sharper we get, the more practiced we are, the better we are at being able to translate it and conduit that, right? And tap into that and then share it with the crowd or share it with the studio or share it with our friends on a podcast, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a spiritual connection. And a lot of musicians don't realize that off the bat, right? They think music comes from writing or notes on a page, right? And music comes from somewhere else. I don't know where. Like, don't ask me where. All I know is the sharper you get, the more confident you are with your pieces, the easier it is for that energy to come through you.
So it's kind of funny because I saw there's an app and it keeps popping up all the time on my Facebook, and I can't tell you how many times I've hit hide this app or I'm not interested in, like in this ad, and it's basically this. You guys have probably all seen it. People listening have probably already heard. They recognize what I'm talking about, but it's like spam, and it's this program where enter song topic. And then it will spit out a bunch of like verse lyrics, and it basically writes a song for you. And I'm like, man, could that be any more mechanical? Like, and I feel bad for any artist, especially emerging artists, that falls for that, because yes, everybody has their own process. You and I have talked about this on the podcast, how our processes are so vastly different when it comes to writing. And with you, you're the Ed Sheeran model of like, I'm going to write 30 songs before I find one that I'm even happy with. Right.
Or 300.
Right. Or 300. Yeah, legit. Right. And everyone has their own process, but I'm actually curious now. So I want to I'll volley this back to you, because this is such a cool conversation. I've wanted to have this combo with other people a lot. Do you find that when you hit that point, it was because you just started to realize you had to let go? Because with me, once I just let go and just trusted that, hey, I'm just going to let this kind of music kind of flow through me, I found it became a little bit easier. I just kind of let go of the fear and the trepidation of like, oh, what if this doesn't sound as right? Or it's like, no, you just got to let go and let those words and that feeling flow through. And it becomes less mechanical at that point.
Yeah. I always tell my clients when they're recording, nobody ever had a good recording by panicking about having a perfect recording, right? And when you're worried about it and you put all this pressure on yourself, then you're sort of denying yourself the chance, right? And the groove, it's not like a faucet that you can turn on and off. Like, I know that you guys can write good songs, but I know it's not just I want to write a song right now. Like, it doesn't happen like that.
Yeah.
It happens like a butterfly landing on you, right? Or, a little lapdog sitting on you. You have to be ready.
Absolutely.
You have to be sharp. You have to be, this is the time that I've set aside for this to happen. I'm practiced. I'm ready for this. My parts are good. The songs are, I'm confident on the songs, and not like that you have to be the best, but just you always put on a better performance if you know what you're doing, right?
Yes.
If you're not trying to hack your way through the mud, you're up above it, right? And you can sail. And yeah, it's just like this transcendent sort of, you have to let go.
Yeah.
Right. You can't force a butterfly to land on your hand by frowning at it and being angry at it. Like, it's not gonna, It just has to happen, and letting go.
I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
You have to be sharp, but you also have to let go, and that's the big balance, right? Artists, it's a hard one to figure out.
You hit on something awesome there too, and Jay, we appreciate this because this is something that, as we've talked about a bit, and then again, this is our candid journal. You and Alina are moving out April 1st, so we always. Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. And they're leveling up from the basement to an amazing, awesome kick-ass condo. Yeah. And so while we already have our structured 9 to 5, we always we're really good at kind of pushing ourselves where we have to have that structured time. It's going to force us even more to do that when we live in separate houses. Because right now it could literally be 11:30 at night. You're like, I can't sleep. You go upstairs to get a glass of water. You hear me up. I'm, playing a video game or something silly or watching a movie. And it just organically, you're like, man, I got this riff in my head. Cool. I can't sleep. And we just have a powwow. That's not going to happen anymore. And while that's melancholy, that sucks. It also forces us to kind of be like, these 9 to 5 kind of, or whatever it is, whatever the time period is structured. So it is an interesting balancing act, like you said, Jeremy, because yes, you want to have the structured time. And I know a lot of artists that are like, I only write during my writing sessions. I'm not a big fan of that. I think writing sessions are great to practice reps, especially within the context that you're saying, hey, I want to get 300 songs out there. They got to come sometime. So it's a good idea. But I think some of the best things I'm curious again on your thoughts on kind of when you're writing and stuff. One of the best things we've done as we've matured as artists is we're not afraid to be like, cool, I'm feeling kind of, let's come back and attack this guy later. And we've done 2-3 verses on a song. We're getting into a great rhythm. We're spending 45 minutes, an hour and a half on kind of just working on this one. We got the riff. We're doing our whole thing. Not feeling that obligation to, I have to now finish the song now, because I feel that myself, at least, and maybe I'm out in left field, but I've always felt if I don't know when to pull back, it's no longer organic. Now I'm kind of forcing it. And it's not just that, maybe that third verse or maybe that bridge is a little forced because I wanted to finish the song more than I wanted it to organically just kind of flow through me. Maybe take a break, come back the next day. It's going to be 10 times better because it was not forced, right?
Yeah, fully agree with you. Yeah, it's songs don't, sometimes they all just happen at once, and it's amazing when it happens, because you better write it down if it happens that way. But more often than not, I mean, you have an idea for a line while you're sitting in traffic waiting for whatever, or you have an idea for a lick that pops in your head when you're trying to go to sleep at 2 a.m. Songs don't all just come to you whenever you want, right? And that's kind of part of the artist life, is if you want to pursue that art, it happens whenever it wants to, whenever it's ready, right?
Absolutely.
And if you're on it and you're an artist who can handle that and grab the inspiration when it comes to you, and you have the option to bounce out of bed and go write something, then you should.
Do it. Oh,
definitely. Yeah. I think we have this amazing ability as artists to be able to do that. Whether you're a painter or a writer or a novelist or illustrator, anything. You have inspiration pockets that hit you once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
And it's never on your own schedule. I mean, sometimes it is. And if it is, it's awesome. That's even better. But it's better to be practiced and know how to have that balance in place so that when it happens, you're ready for it.
Exactly. And my dad's going to love this episode. This is almost like this dedicated to you, Pops, because this is his whole thing. He's like, you know what? His theory, I don't know if I agree with this per se, but he's like, you only get a certain window when the universe picks you, and you have to capitalize. So if the universe is giving you songs, you listen and you take full advantage of it. And I'm like, okay, I appreciate that. I mean, I think Paul McCartney's still making some good tunes. I mean, but yeah, he's like, when at the elite level, when you're really at the top of your game, don't dismiss those. If you're waking up, man, we've had situations with songs where you've literally had something, you're like, I can't get this out of my head. That's in your head for a reason. I've woken up in the morning, I'm like, dude, I had a dream last night that I was literally at some coffee house and they were doing an open mic night, and some homeless guy was invited in to have, a coffee and warm up, and he ended up playing this incredible song, and I'm like, whoa, that song's amazing. He's like, yeah, you can have it, give it to Loops. I'm like, cool. I woke up in the morning being like literally, that's a story. And I'm like,
that's cool.
Okay. And I'm like, is this a real song, or did I just steal it from the homeless guy in the dream? Whatever, it's a Loop song now. But I mean, you gotta fine tune that and I think listen to that instinct. But on the flip side, I think it is really important to not force force it too much, not to, and that's a balancing act we talked about that feeling of we're all like scared. I don't want to be lazy. So am I being lazy because I've only done 2 of the, verses and I feel there's more to this song still, or the song's only 2 minutes long? You're not being lazy by stopping.
Yeah.
If anything, you're fine tuning that song and going to make it the best version of itself later. So yeah, for anyone, I mean, part of what we want to do though, we're not like we're the teachers, but we want to help out anyone that's in the same position, or maybe they're developing as a writer. And this is some good advice that might help them out.
Absolutely. So that pretty much sums up Kevin's pick. Break my heart.
Oh yeah,
in a nutshell.
That was a good point.
But we gotta get moving on to the next one here, which is your song that you're picking here, Jeremy. Which is, I believe it is off of. Is it a single?
It was a single, and it was the title track of my 3rd album. It's called "You Know What I Mean."
I like it.
And yeah, it's. I guess we'll listen to it, and then I'll break it down.
I love it.
Let's do it.
Take one.
Say is a beautiful start, knowing all I say it is a valiant tar. Not to offend and not to insult, to think like a child and speak like a child, to believe what I'm told and to do what I say, to observe how I act and know that it's okay when I'm told what to think or to not. Well, time from a time that we nearly forgot. I've been too invested in finding a way to put into words all the things that I've seen, and talking to do so, you know what I mean.
Woo. I like the vibe of it, man.
I love it, man. That's like I said, that was my choice too.
Yeah.
And so by all means,
That was your first choice.
Yeah, Break My Heart, awesome. But this was the choice that I had as my choice. So
Nice.
tell us, man. Give us the goods on.
Yeah.
Why did you pick
what I
this
mean?
song this week? Yeah.
I like the vibe too. I think it's dancey and fun. It's super fun to play it live. I mean, I have my drummer Sandro gets so creative, and he has all these bells and whistles, and it's kind of an open enough groove. It's got that sort of boots and like slow boots and cats vibe, and there's lots of room in there for little fills and bells and whistles and little noises and guitar stuff. I wrote this song. It's kind of my commentary on, like, the early 2019, I guess, is kind of when I was writing it. The challenge that is trying to communicate what you feel without offending people or hurting someone's feelings or coming across like you're being unreasonable or unwilling to.
Delicate balancing act.
Yeah.
Now in this modern day.
Definitely. And I grew up in like a fairly conservative Christian family, and I mean I've learned a lot about what I believe about the universe and where we are, and not all of it agrees with the upbringing that I had. Mm-hmm. And I think part of that came from always trying to figure out a way to communicate what you want to say without having to deal with all these social implications, or people thinking you're weird or think
Right.
you're not in control of your emotions, and that's why you're talking about the sad stuff all the time or whatever. And I don't know, I think like a lot of that, if I tried to live for a while being sort of like a manically happy person all the time, and learning the danger of toxic positivity, because it's unrealistic, really.
Yeah.
And it's good to be positive. It's
The
important.
intentions are good.
Yes.
You mean well. You're
Definitely.
like, hey, I just want to put a positive spin on everything, but
Yeah.
is it healthy?
Exactly. And I think like this song was kind of trying to get into that point, talking about like, if you boil your life philosophy down to a few sentences, it's easier to communicate who you are than if you have to, if somebody asks, if an alien showed up and said, tell me about John Fennell, what would you say? Right. How would you boil that down to somebody in a matter of time? Right. And like, to me, that song kind of, it talks about that. Like it's a dangerous balancing act, especially as an artist. Like I've been in trouble for goofy stuff I've said on the mic on stage. Like, and I'm not trying to be rude or inconsiderate, but if I've put people on the spot in ways that didn't appreciate it, right?
Yeah.
And hurt their feelings or whatever. And and learning kind of that balance for, you don't have to compromise what you believe. You don't have to, change your opinions based on who you're talking to, but it's important to be able to figure out a way to communicate what you want. And a lot of the time at the end of the day, you just say, well, you know what I mean. Right. You know what I'm talking about. Right. You get it. Right. And that to me, that's what the song is all about. And it's dancey and it's fun and, it's fun to play live. And it kind of matches sort of the vibe that I had going into the early start of the pandemic. Right. The way that everything's so weighted politically. Right. Everything you say. And as an artist too, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure you guys have dealt with it too. There's people that believe that because you have the stage every Friday night or whatever, that you will go to bat for their social issues as well. Yes. Right. Because you're their friend and, right now you should be sharing your platform, and if you're not, then you're not a good enough person or whatever.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And, and to me, the second verse, I talk about that. I love my wife. I love my guitar, love my truck, but I don't like her car, these kinds of things. It has to be simple because anything more gets too complicated. It all gets convoluted. And if you have to take an hour to explain your stance on something, I mean, good that you have an hour worth of material to talk about, but you're not changing anybody's minds. You have to have your identity boiled down to something that you can choose to do every day. And that was my intention with that song, is just to sort of try to put that into words and into a way that you get that feeling that comes across when you say, man, I don't know what else to say. I hope they get it. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
I think that's very cool. I think that's a lot more detailed than I thought, even listening to the song. But I mean, that's why we're asking, right?
Definitely.
That's why we want to know, because I don't know what you mean, right? Just off the title, right, or something like that, or just listening to the first 30 seconds. So be sure that if you're listening to the podcast or watching the podcast or whatever, you go give Jeremy a follow on Spotify or wherever you can find his music. I'm sure that it's on iTunes, Apple Music,
Amazon, all that stuff. Yeah,
everywhere. You play.
Tidal, you play as I call it now.
Yeah. Be sure to go and give him a follow on all of those streaming services. Be sure to go and listen to all those songs as well.
As always, on our links, we're going to make sure we put all 3 songs. And on our Instagram and Facebook posts as well, on our socials, we're also going to put Jeremy's actual Instagram and Facebook pages. So go give him a follow. Do it for us. If you follow, as I always say, but it's more intimate now because our buddy's right here. If you do follow him or you like, any of his stuff, shoot him a message, say hi. Let him know, hey, Loop sent me. I heard the podcast. Yeah. I hope we gain some new fans that are, and especially with you, it's such a good, natural, smooth crossover.
Definitely.
I don't know if this is probably the most smoothest transition to ask this question, but I mention a lot of the inspirations that inspire us and the song and songwriters and musicians that kind of help mold who Kevin Roy is as an artist and John Fennell as an artist and Loops together. One I always talk about all the time is Justin Azuka. Have you heard of Justin Azuka?
Yes.
Yeah, he's so awesome, man. And so many people have it. Of course he has, of all people. When I hear your music, I feel Justin Azuka in it. Like inspirations or tinges of it, the same kind of vibe. With that song, I heard John Mayer. I feel so much John Mayer in that song. Yeah. And I mean that as the ultimate praise. He is so wicked, man.
Yeah, definitely.
But I hear that stuff and it's like that, to me, those are the kind of bridges. So you lean more heavier into kind of the bluesy, kind of funk, kind of that vibe, while still having the same sentimentalities that Loops has. And I was saying even off recording, kind of like that sister kind of vibe of lanes that we're both in. And with us, we kind of lean more into the drawn back, the slower kind of melodic piano, kind of acoustic, like the Ed Sheeran, Adele, kind of with that kind of stuff. Yeah. Louis Capaldi stuff. But
John Legend. They're
both they're so, right? It's like having brothers in the same family, right? You have the same genes, but you're your own unique people. Yeah. So it's no surprise to me that, Justin is, I've been wanting to ask the whole episode anyways. I'm like, we've never brought it up organically.
How do I bring this up?
How do I bring up my guy, Justin Azuka? I've talked so many times about how.
Shout him out again. Maybe one day he'll respond to
I hope he responds. Holly inspired the artwork of our album, the feel. It's one of my all-time favorite albums. And yeah, I feel Justin Azuka kind of flowing a little bit through your work and definitely John Mayer, which that's just next level. So Yeah.
Thank you. It's I appreciate when people read into the work that I put out, you know, and it makes me feel nice that, like, you know, you take time to objectively listen to it, right? And, like, you know, the best you can hope for a lot of times on streaming services is that you can wind up on somebody's kitchen cleaning playlist or whatever.
Yeah.
And, like, honestly, that's an honor, because the music that you put on when you're doing your daily life is important to, you know, who you are. John Mayer, he's my hero for sure. He's got such a way of writing songs. Like, I don't know how he does his lyrics and the way he can match a vibe with his guitar and his vocals and, like, everything. It's it just clicks right into your soul, you know.
Absolutely.
And he's so good, but he's not flashy all the time, which I admire that, you know. He does what he has to serve the song, and I really admire that in an artist.
Well, if I could give, I mean, this is morphing into the Jeremy Kneeshaw praise episode, but
We told you we blushed by the end.
oh, you're going to blush.
Yeah,
this
here we
is
go.
my blush comment right here. If I can give you the best praise I could possibly lay on you as an artist, and I'm saying to this just objectively, one artist to another that have both put tons of time in, not as a friend, but just straight up as an artist, I get the feel of John Mayer, but you're not trying to be John Mayer. Like, you're being Jeremy Kneeshaw. And I don't hear John Mayer when I hear that song. I get the feel of John Mayer, your voice. You're not trying to be him. And I'm telling you that, being very, very vulnerable, that Kevin Roy took a lot of years trying to get past that point and evolving and finding Kevin Roy's voice, not trying to be Justin Timberlake, because it was so effortless for me to sing like him at karaoke and stuff, and not trying to be Ed Sheeran, and trying to get the feel and the inspiration from Ed Sheeran, who we have no qualms admitting is like a big inspiration for the two of us in our band. And it's clear when you hear our music, it's like, yeah, they're kind of Ed Sheeran kind of vibe, but still sounding like Loops. And you've caught that. You've caught that lightning in a bottle. You are you. And yeah, man, I couldn't give better praise to anyone that I can say that like you've become your own version with the inspiration of John Mayer. It's like Kobe Bryant became Kobe eventually. He stopped trying to be Michael Jordan, and he became Kobe. You're the Kobe to John Mayer being Michael Jordan.
Wow, thank you.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Big praise.
I know. Yeah. Trust me, that's a big deal for me to mention Kobe and Mike.
Definitely, no kidding. Yes, thank you.
Oh, I got it. I see a little tinge of red. I see some red.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Cool. All right.
Well, I think that kind of ties into our next segment, which, as we normally do, is our top fives. It's going to be running long today, so
I don't think anyone minds.
You'll know, because it'll be like an hour and a half or something like that when you see the episode length. But yeah, this week on our top fives, we're going to be talking about music performances that we've either seen in person, seen on YouTube, seen in movies. So I asked Jeremy to come up with the list. I asked Kev to come up with the list, because that's
so everybody's clear, just so we're all on the same page. You're good. You understand the context of it.
I got mine. I even wrote mine down on a paper.
You don't have to have been there, but it's something that you've witnessed clearly, because it's not something you heard about and you never watched the video. Like, even if it's on YouTube or whatever, but top five that just your favorite. Doesn't have to be the best ever, but it's your favorite. It really stuck with you.
Yeah.
So I think that I'll start off the top five this week, and then I'll ask Kev, and then Jeremy will finish us off here.
Cool.
But I'm, as we always do, it's in no particular order, so don't feel obligated to say this is my number one, number two, number three, number four, number
You
five.
might have one. You might have
And if that is the case, cool.
I have a number one, but yeah.
I have a number one too.
That's the thing. Is like people might have like a specific number one that might resonate with them.
One day we will have a topic that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But usually it's like a 1 or 2, and then it's kind of fluid after that.
Yeah. So yeah, for my list here for the top five, I don't have anything in any particular order. But I've got a couple different ones where it's specifically like songs that I've seen, and then a couple like overall performances.
Cool. Yeah.
So I'm curious to see like if we're gonna cross over into anybody else's top fives here.
I have a specific song in mind, like a one song in a performance that was like, whoa,
cool.
And then I have four performances.
Nice. Cool. So I'm going to start it off with the first band that I ever saw live, which was Daughtry.
What?
The band Daughtry was the very first performance that I ever saw live. I saw with my mom. It was just the two of us.
Nice.
And I think I was like 10 or 11 when I went and saw that performance.
Nice.
Mid to late 2000s is I think when it was. And
they were huge back then too.
Oh, dude.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I remember because I've mentioned it to you before. I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast, but
no, we've never.
Chris Daughtry played In the Air Tonight acoustically on guitar, just him, and was it ever cool? It was probably like one of the coolest.
I didn't
like,
ask you though, even when we talked, have you ever found a version of that you can watch even?
No.
So it's like my dad's story
Yeah.
with listeners will remember this. My dad having Freddie Mercury the night after John Lennon got assassinated. Freddie was super close with John, and they played 2 nights back to back at Wembley Arena in England. And my dad and my mom, I was a newborn baby. This is like,
crazy.
yeah, December 9th, 1980. And my dad and mom were at Wembley Arena, and Freddie played Imagine. But I was able to find one bootleg version of that and made it as a gift for my dad. I'm like, here, I found a copy of this, like horribly audioed, but it's Freddie singing Imagine. And I would love it if it has to exist somewhere. We got to find
I'm
this,
sure.
man.
Yeah. So
If we find it, we'll update the pod.
So that entire performance is in my top 5 because I think that it's a super, super cool one. Sentimental to me, of course. The next one on my list here is our guy, Ed Sheeran.
Nice.
Him playing specifically Bloodstream at Glastonbury in 2017. It was a video that I found on YouTube. It used to pump me up before like either songwriting or going out and playing a show or going to an open mic or something like that. That was
me
like
before we went to a show one
Oh,
time.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
right. But it's just like that was the one that like gave me fire, gave me energy. It's just like it's one of my favorite songs of Ed Sheeran is that one, Bloodstream, and that's by far the best version that I've ever found. There's so many cool versions because he's so raw, right? Just like us, and uses the loop pedal, and like it's cool watching him mess up because you can see that he's like a real musician. He's
feels
a real
that much
dude,
more raw. Yeah,
right, exactly. But like watching him switch out a guitar mid-song is so cool, which I'm pretty sure happens in this one. Him literally tuning in the middle of a song is super cool as well. So anyway, that's in my top 5. Another one in my top 5 is John Mayer.
Nice.
Ooh.
Slow Dancing in a Burning Room is my favorite song.
Nice.
It's one of the reasons why I started playing guitar in the first place. Wasn't necessarily that song, but John Mayer. Like my mom loves John Mayer, and I learned the song Comfortable by John Mayer.
Really?
It was one of the first ones that I ever actually learned.
That's not an easy one either.
It's not an easy one, but I remember I learned how to play that song, and then she's like, that was cool. And I remember her tearing up and like crying in the kitchen when I first like played that for her. And I I don't normally tell people that, but I guess I will to everybody who's listening to this podcast. But this song, Slow Dancing in a Burning Room, 2018-ish, out at Rio. Super cool version of it. You can just feel the emotion of the song. Look it up. It's on YouTube.
Is that the one where he puts the guitar on the ground and he's playing it behind? Because he's wearing a white shirt with glasses, right? And suspenders. That Rio show, or is that a different?
Maybe you're gonna know more than I do.
Yeah,
I was
like, we're getting fact check.
I just went into my history
fives.
here and then
This
picked
is
my
awesome.
favorites.
You're like, now I want to watch that performance.
I forget if it was that one or Gravity, but he does that.
Yeah.
And during the solo, he puts it on the
Oh,
ground.
I know what you're
and he's-
talking about. Yeah.
and all this fire. and stuff.
It wasn't that one because I feel like I remember that. It was a very like black,
Okay.
like blacked out room kind of thing.
Oh, maybe it was.
But no. That,
carry on.
Yeah, no. The one that I was talking about is like an actual either like festival or something like that, or just one of his concerts. I just remember like it's red.
His song
like it's
is-
like a red vibe.
Yeah, that was Rio. Yeah.
Was that? Yeah, exactly. So
That's that song's always a winner. Anytime he plays it, for sure.
Yeah. But I just remember like watching that one. It's up there with like that Ed Sheeran one where I would just watch that and that would inspire me to either write or to do
Absolutely,
something.
dude.
I'm just like, I can't just listen to that and then not do anything.
Yeah.
Right. It just like pumps you up. Next on the list is actually the last 2 on my list here are 2 historical pieces, which one is Freddie Mercury. Live Aid. 1985. I mean, it's so iconic. Such an iconic performance. Kev's going to probably go on that. I'm sure it's on his top 5. So I'll
knows
let
me too well.
I'll let him chat
Dial
about that
that
more
one
because
in.
I don't want to pretend that I know more than Kev does about that kind of stuff. And then the last one on my list is Jimi Hendrix.
Ah.
Woodstock.
Oh my God.
When he played the Star Spangled Banner.
Amazing.
Very cool.
I think that's probably up there with one of just like the coolest. I think it's like culturally such a big thing.
Yeah.
And obviously like none of us are American, but that's such a big stance that he took just to play that the way that he did.
Yep.
Right. Which
especially back then. That
absolutely
was a different
man.
place back then. Yeah.
absolutely
War
with
and
Vietnam War. Yeah.
My dad saw BB King open for Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, yeah.
That's in Seattle. Yeah. In the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. He was in college.
Wow.
Him and his buddies all got in their
what I loved about-
wagon and drove down there.
What I loved about Jimmy is that he was just unapologetically Hendrix. Like, he did not care. He wasn't following by any rules, had no training in guitar, played the guitar strung upside down, right? He played a right-handed guitar. That was just, he just
he was
strung it
left-handed.
backwards. And that's the perfect example though, is yes, because he was left-handed and he was dirt poor. And that's literally, he had a right-handed guitar and that he had to make it work.
He's a veteran as well. Came
Right.
back from the war.
Exactly.
But the fact that he never changed it and just didn't, when he was a megastar, didn't just go get left-handed guitars made for him and he just kept playing it the way he wanted to play it and that he was comfortable with and he was used to. Like, to me, it just speaks to everything about him. Right?
Eric Clapton once gifted him a left-handed guitar and he kept it in a case because he.
What? I did
just know
not
how to
know that.
say it.
That is
Yeah.
the coolest thing, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe the two, we were talking about John Mayer, who I think is criminally underrated by the casual. Like, every musician gets how amazing he is on guitar.
Yeah.
But I don't think he gets enough praise by the mainstream public for just being, because he's John Mayer and he's dated a cajillion smoke show, Hollywood, starlets, and he writes ballads and love songs. Yeah. Jake's like, oh,
Yeah.
Dad. But he's dated a million, and he's been in the mainstream eye and he makes some soft music, love songs and stuff. So I don't think he's gotten the rep that he deserves for how incredible he is a guitarist. I think Clapton, I did not know that story, man. I'm blown away by this now. It's distracting me. But I'm like, oh my God. Clapton and Hendrix, two of the greatest guitarists ever.
Yeah.
Easily. Most lists might have them two of the top three, if not one and two.
Yeah.
Like, they were just the GOATs.
Definitely.
So that's my top 5. I'm super stoked about it. It took a long time, but I mean, like, talking about it now and even after I wrote the list, I'm like, there's so many different things, like SNL performances. Like, I was thinking even Justin Bieber, like
That
even
Lonely
like his
performance.
even that
Holy
performance,
moly.
like, I think that there's like a couple different ones that, are super symbolic as well. But
Well,
for sentimental reasons and the reasons why.
Hey man, honorable mentions. We said we can throw those in there too. So that's cool. You said that about the Bieber one because we always poke fun at ourselves if we do a couple Bieber songs throughout our sets.
Yeah.
But everyone, by the way, universally, I've yet to have everyone be like, ugh, and roll their eyes. Everyone's just like, yeah. And they laugh because I think we make it comfortable. We're like, yeah, we're not even going to say his name, but Bustin' Bieber.
Is,
yeah. But that song, like I'm an SNL borderline historian, as my closest friends know. I've loved it since day one, since I was a kid. Mike Myers era and stuff growing up with those guys, and Adam Sandler and all them. And I have like history books on it and everything. That, to me, that performance, I love that. That's an honorable mention because that was my favorite SNL music performance, even above Nirvana playing on SNL. Like, there's some legendary performances, but that Bieber one of Lonely, it was so vulnerable. It was exactly what we've been talking about with music. It's exactly what you aim for as an artist. If you haven't watched it yet, even Jeremy, I would watch that Justin Bieber singing Lonely last year or 2020.
It was in like November or something.
Yeah, it was right
like
on Christmas because we did a cover of it, I think, on our 24 days advent calendar. If you haven't watched it yet, watch that performance. It was so, and if anyone listening hasn't watched it, watch it. It's an amazing 3 minutes. You'll be moved. You'll probably have a lot more respect for him. Benny Blanco, like, it was amazing. Cool,
dude. I want to hear your top 5s before we move on to Jeremy's there.
Let me move on to Jeremy's. Okay, so my top 5s. My number one favorite performance of all time, music history, that I've watched. I think it's also the number one performance in music history. It's both. It covers 2 lists, and it is Freddie and Queen at Live Aid.
Yeah.
I think it's the greatest set that's ever been performed in music history. And I know that's a bold statement, but just the emotion, the energy it captured. If you've watched Bohemian Rhapsody, they kind of hit on how important that set was for the band.
Yeah.
The movie kind of fudges it. And like you said, I mean, I know the kind of history of this pretty intimately. The movie fudges it a bit for dramatic purposes. They make it seem like Queen and Freddie were like so splintered and this song and this performance saved the band. It didn't. Like, they were already kind of working on an album as it was. But in real life, it was just, to me, the greatest vocalist ever on the greatest stage, maybe in music history, billion people watching worldwide. And he had the eyes of the entire world. They were buried. Like, they weren't playing, they weren't the main act. They weren't playing at the evening. They weren't like, they were competing with like, I don't even remember, like Blues Brothers or something, like in America at the same, like, cause it was all simulcast, right? So they didn't get the slot they deserved. The movie hits on that. And he just stepped up, man. Like I've been in those moments myself, even as a singer and a performer. I know you have too, where in that night, in that show, for whatever reason, you're like, whoa, like I felt like I was like Neo seeing the code in the Matrix. Like I'm sure you've had those moments, Jeremy. And when I watch Freddie, it gives me goosebumps and inspires me, because I'm like, that's a guy in this moment. Like he's Michael Jordan, and the net looks massive and he can hit every single shot. Like it's just, he's feeling it in the moment. And to me, I love greatness. I love people realizing their true potential. That's the greatest moment of the greatest singer of all time. So if you haven't watched the whole set, it's worth watching the entire set. It has the audience in the palm of his hand. Mm-hmm. Like he's got them in the palm of his hands, man. I'm getting chills just talking about it. So that's the greatest. That's, to me, that's number one with a bullet. My other four, let's see. I'll give two personal ones that were me in person. One was the best concert I've ever seen. It was in 2009. I was a new member with the RCMP. I just moved from London. I've told you some of this story, I think, John. But I was moving from London, Ontario to Kamloops. And on the way, we stopped in Thunder Bay, me and my buddy Adam. We were driving together. He was keeping me company for the drive. I rented a car, and I was moving all my stuff from London. And we were in Thunder Bay, and our buddy Greg Beharo, who's now actually a big radio DJ personality down in LA, and he was working at the Calgary radio station. And we were talking to him. It was on a Saturday. We were supposed to be going to visit him on Sunday night in Calgary, stay for a night, and then get to Kamloops the next day. And we're like, hey, man, we're feeling kind of tired. I think we're going to stop in Thunder Bay tonight. We've already been driving for 12 hours from early in the day from Sault Ste. Marie. We're probably going to call it. And he's like, oh, you guys got to be here tomorrow. You can't come here on Monday. And we're like, why? He's like, I got you guys like prime tickets for the Killers concert. I'm interviewing them after. You got to come watch the Killers. And we're like, oh, no. We look at the clock and we're like, it's like almost midnight. We have to be there by 8 o'clock. That's, 20 hours. It's basically like a 16-hour drive to get from there to Calgary. We're like, we're not gonna be able to stop. And he's like, get here, just get here. So we're like, okay. So we just drove straight through, and we stopped for an hour and a half just outside of Winnipeg. We asked a Super 8 if we could stop and it was just rest. I showed him my badge. I'm like, hey man, I'm a cop. Can I sleep in your parking lot for an hour and a half? I got to get to this Killers concert in Calgary. And the guy's like, sure, enjoy the show. So we slept for an hour and a half, kept driving, drove 30 and a half out of 32 hours. Just me driving the entire time, all to get to the Killers concert. I've never been more tired in my life, and I've never been more energized in my life. And it was the greatest show ever. And maybe the show was like a 5 out of 10, but for me it was a 10 out of 10 because I was like, this is amazing. It's the Killers, lots of energy and
sleep deprived,
and the whole thing made that
lots of booze involved.
Oh yeah, it was the only thing keeping me alive at that point.
Yeah,
and I was more energy drinks than man at that stage, for sure. And so that 2009 Calgary Killers. It was just legendary status in my mind. The next is a show that was inspired a lot of our stage presence. I've talked about it numerous times on the show. I talk about it most shows. John, you could probably guess what the next one is, I'm guessing. Matt Good in London, Ontario. Centennial Hall. Greg Beharo again, actually another shout out to Greg. Greg got me and him tickets to go see this intimate stripped down Matthew Good. Remember Matthew Good band?
Yes.
Hello Time Bomb. They were awesome. And so Matt Good just did stripped down acoustic guitar. It was like an hour and a half long show, 2 hours. And he, no exaggeration, spent just as long talking between each song as the actual performances themselves.
Wow.
I just felt like when I walked away from that show, I knew who this guy was as a person, as a man, his warts and all. Like I just felt so connected with him beyond his music, and it made me appreciate his music 10,000 times more than I already liked him going in. And that never shook that. Like that inspired me to this day. If you watch any Loop show in person and you really like what we do and it's a little bit different, that's why. It's all thanks to that one performance. I'll never forget that one. And the next two are GOAT status, legendary status, all-time shows that I watched on a TV screen, both of them. One was after the fact. I wish I could say I remember watching it in time, but I was a baby. But it's so legendary that it shaped me as I was growing up in my like formative years of music. I was like, man, that's magic. Like I want to do that one day. And that was Michael Jackson, the Motown 25th anniversary special. Billie Jean. I said I had one on there that was just a one single song performance. It's him doing Billie Jean. I'm sure you guys are both
Yeah.
familiar. It's The Birth of the Moonwalk.
Yeah. That was iconic. That was
Iconic.
revolutionary. His first moonwalk performance.
When you watch it, people are like, like they're like, what is happening? Like this is like a magic trick. Like he does it once, just so casually, and then he does it again later. And it was like he was magic. He was like he was larger than life. He was just gliding on the stage, and it was a move that was like the Harlem Shuffle, and it was like this move down like beatboxers and breakdancers and stuff in New York and Harlem. They did it for years. Mike just learned it from like someone when he was on tour. But then him to put it on that stage, and it was the Motown 25th anniversary special. Like 100 million people watched that. For him to step up in that moment, it was like, I'm a man. I'm no longer like the kid that was in Jackson 5. I'm not Michael Jackson off the wall. Like I'm the biggest star on the planet. So I love when greatness steps up in big moments. And that was the ultimate definition of that. And my last one is another Michael Jackson, which I do remember watching because I was just a kid, but I was like Sebastian's age. And it was the 1991 Super Bowl. Michael played the halftime performance. It changed them forever. Nowadays, like, coming up this weekend. By the time someone listens to this, Super Bowl will already be finished. And it's got Dr. Dre, it's got Eminem. The Super Bowl halftime is as big now and as popular as the show, the actual game itself, I would hazard to say. It all started in 1991. Pre-1991, I posted it on Facebook recently, even a few years back, and it was a memory, and I reshared it. And it was the New Kids on the Block, which was the biggest act in the world in like the late 80s. In 1990, they ended up doing the halftime show, and they got upstaged by Mickey Mouse singing It's a Small World After All. They sang like half of one song, they did Step by Step, and they did half of another song, and then it's just Mickey Mouse comes in. Like that's what it used to be.
Yeah.
That would never happen today. Like the stars get to do a whole big thing. Beyonce brings out Destiny's Child. Like it's a big show.
Yeah.
And it all started with Michael, and he had these holograms, which were and lookalikes that were like in each corner. I don't know if either of you guys have seen this, but each corner of the stadium, Michael was there, and everyone's like, oh, Michael's in that corner. Oh my God, he's up there. He's up there. And then he just pops up on the stage and did this whole medley. And I never forgot that. It was like, wow, like that is so cool.
That's awesome.
Those are my top 5.
There we go. I like it.
Yeah, man.
Jeremy.
All right, Jeremy.
Yeah, there's something powerful about a good live performance, you
Right?
know? And there's so many things about live performance that you can like. There's the showmanship, the quality of the musical entertainment, and then the aspects of choreography and lights and pyrotechnics, right? And holograms like Michael Jackson had. Obviously in the 90s that was like brand new technology. And I love artists that will push the envelope for what entertainment can be, and speaking of halftime, I really appreciated The Weeknd, who did the last halftime last year. It was incredible. I was like, man, there was like 300 people or something dancing in his thing, and like that's a performance, right? That's that's like a world class. My 5 are kind of a little bit more based on like me seeing something in the show that I wanted to try to do.
Absolutely.
Or try to learn how to do, or try to be inspired by. My first one, I'm a big bluegrass fan. I'm in a bluegrass band with my dad. He plays banjo and I play the dobro and sing harmonies and, super, down south kind of.
I didn't even know you played it. We got to link you up with Doug Cox, our producer, because he's like one of the top dobro players in the world. Like,
no kidding, eh?
Oh, no lie. Like, did he say it was Texas or? I think it was Texas.
Like Austin.
Yeah. And it's Willie Nelson is number 1 on the dobro call out list, and he's number 2. Like,
wow.
Yeah. So like we'll off air, we'll link you up and kind of try to connect you with him. He's cool. I did not know that. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt, but that just caught me off guard. I was like, oh my God, dobro, that's amazing.
Definitely. Bluegrass is such an interesting genre, and it's all acoustic instruments. So you just walk in wherever you go and you're mixed off the floor, right? Yep. There's no amplification. The best bluegrass show I've ever seen was Ricky Skaggs and Kentucky Thunder. They were playing Roots and Blues Festival in 2016. And it just blew my mind what you can do and how fast these people can play their instruments, and like every single note crisp, but like that fast, right? All the time. And like they wouldn't take a stop, and they take their breath, and like at the end of the song they're all just panting and wiping their faces off and whatever, and because they're just giving it everything they have. And Ricky Skaggs, I mean, he's been in the scene since he was a child. Like he went on stage with Bill Monroe in the Grand Ole Opry when he was 7 or 8 or something. Mandolin player. Just world-class musicians, and from a genre that you wouldn't expect, right? Bluegrass, you think of moonshine and having a big gray beard and sitting out near, and these guys, like, it was incredible to watch. Every single member of that band inspired me to want to be a better acoustic player.
Nice.
Like, like the acoustic guitar player. It was incredible. My second one was at a festival called Element, which is just outside of Princeton, down in the southern part of BC. And there's a band called the String Cheese Theory. And they're like this funkadelic trance dance sort of group, very Grateful Dead-esque. And they were playing with a bass player named Oteil Burbridge, who right now plays bass for The Dead and Friends, which is the Grateful Dead reincarnation with John Mayer and the other gang. And I was a little bit under the influence, I'll admit, but I was watching the show and they just played for like 3 hours straight. It was just throbby dance music, like,
nice.
you know, shake your hindquarters, you know, as hard as you can. And these guys, and there was these women that would walk around on stilts, and they had these like neon light up angel wings, and they would like float around the mosh pit, and you would just watch them, and you're just like, just stuck in this groove, man. And hours would go by and you didn't even know, right? Hundreds of thousands of steps, I'm sure, over that weekend. And I decided that I wanted to be a bass player in a dance band like that. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to be the guy who's just like pumping out that just dance music all night long, right? Changed my outlook on what jam bands could be. You know, I never appreciated them properly.
You didn't know the power that you could have to elicit that kind of reaction out of people, though, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
I could control these people into like almost like a trance like state.
Well, and String Cheese Theory is famous because they, you know, they're similar to the Grateful Dead. People will follow them around to their different festival stops. And so because the Princeton show is just above the border, like you come up through Sumas or whatever. There was like all these Americans, like probably thousands of Americans there that we were hanging out with. And like, you know, they all had all these bluegrass jams out in the campsites afterwards and stuff. And totally revolutionized my opinion about what festivals mean.
Absolutely.
And what, you know, what I want to do one day, you know, when I'm there. My third one is Johnny Cash at San Quentin. That album,
legendary.
You know, try to different pockets.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people appreciate his Folsom Prison album. But the famous Folsom Prison Blues recording, like the famous one, was actually from San Quentin. And he did Boy Named Sue, and he did all this classic stuff. And of course, it's these prisoners, right? And his big idea was that he was going to go and perform for these people that nobody else in society wanted, right? During the 60s. I mean, if you were in prison in the 60s, especially in a place like San Quentin, like, they basically forgot about you.
Just,
right?
Throw away the keys.
And the energy in there, like, it's almost scary, but like these people are so passionate and just so excited. And you can't lose. I mean, he comes out there, hello, I'm Johnny Cash, and
nice.
That's the song, right? And that's from that album. My second favorite one from 2019 right here in town, Foreigner. When they came to town.
That's so fun. I had some friends that went to that and I couldn't make the actual show.
It was
and
the
I missed
news
that.
of the town.
Oh, I missed that show.
It was
I heard it was incredible.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, the singer, I forget the new singer's name, but he, like in such good shape, he went running around the whole stadium and high-fiving people and stuff. It was obviously before COVID. But so tight and so like interesting and more Foreigner songs than I had ever known. I didn't realize all these songs were Foreigner songs, right?
Yeah.
And at the end, their last song, they had the Sahali High School choir come up and join them on the stage, and they sang. I can't even remember what song it was, but it was powerful. And I think the choir class obviously had been practicing and knew that it was coming, but nobody else did, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's like this Kamloops high school class singing on stage with Foreigner, like cool. Man, it was awesome. And I was like, this is cool. Like that's the level that I want to. It's not just Foreigner, right?
Yeah.
It's something special from where you are, right?
Absolutely.
You're playing a show to where you are, and I admire that, because you don't have to do that when you're as rich and famous as Foreigner.
No.
You don't have to care who's there.
No.
But the fact that they do, that's what inspires.
After all this time, they still appreciate the impact they could have on those people in the audience. Like, imagine the impact that had on just those kids that were singing in the choir, right?
Yeah.
Let alone you and the audience watching that.
Yeah.
Or their parents, right? Think about all those students' parents who grew up with Foreigner, right?
Oh man, well,
that makes me respect them even more. I didn't even know that they did that. My buddies just had the best time and got super drunk and were like, it was the best show ever. No one ever told me about these.
Most of us were pretty trash by then.
Oh, absolutely. Maybe it didn't even happen. Everyone just remembered it happened.
Exactly.
It's just this mass illusion.
Mandela effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I always say, like, whenever my band gets ready to go on stage, even if we're playing, wherever, a coffee shop somewhere, I always say, like, this might be the show that re-inspires someone to get back into music. Because you never know who's going to be there, and you never know what they're going to need to hear. And like, maybe there's only 3 people watching you, But if those three people are there and they need to hear what you're providing, it's not by accident.
Absolutely.
And this might be the gig that like suggests to them that, you know, live music is a possible career, right? And like that's an important responsibility to have when you play shows, right? To remember that, you know, you're providing a service to the world around you, right? And if you can remember to stay grounded and try to be humble as a part of that process, like that's what I like.
Well, before you get to your number one, I want to capture that idea and that thought because I love that. And I don't know if we've shared this on the podcast yet. We might have, but before every show, we always say to each other, like 2 or 20,000, because we want to give the same show, whether there's 2 people in the audience or 20,000 people in the audience, like the exact same show. And I think that's the key, right?
Exactly.
There's a really cool quote I always remember, and hopefully this inspires some people listening. But Marilyn Monroe was asking Joe DiMaggio why he plays so hard every single game, because there's like, you know, 162 games a season, back then 154. And she's like, why do you play so hard every single game? He's like, because I don't know if there's some 6-year-old that's watching his very first baseball game with his dad, and that this is his first chance ever to see a baseball player. I want him to see me at my absolute best.
Yeah.
And I always think of that and apply that I applied it when I was a police officer, to be honest. I was always like, hey, this might be the person's worst day of their life, and they're on their first call ever that they've ever dealt with the police. I want to give them the best possible version of me on that call. And now as a musician, even more, I would love that you have the same mentality, because I think it's important. I think sometimes, especially the more successful we are, if we're gigging a lot, it can become monotonous. It can become robotic. You've played that same venue a whole bunch of times. Like, there's nothing new and exciting about it. We forget that this might be the first time these people ever see us. Maybe we can win over a new audience member, but more importantly than that, we don't know what that person's going through. Maybe they're having a horrible day and their friend just dragged them out to go to the bar, and your performance is something that one day on a podcast, they're talking about a performance they always remembered. Yeah. It's easy to forget that when you're in the moment. You can't see the forest through the tree. But I think it's so cool that you have that same insight, because I think it's also a mature thing as an artist to realize, like, hey, I got to give my 100% no matter what, whether there's 2 people or 20,000.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, such a beautiful concept, and I think it provides a lot of freedom in your performance too, because, you know, if you're trying to be the best you can be all the time, then it makes it very simple how to perform, right? And it makes, you know, your objective very clear. It's not easy, but it's clear, and that now you have a direction that you're aiming.
Well, you're not just phoning it in. You're not just being robotic. Okay, cool. I got to do this, and this, and this. You know, it's more fluid.
Totally. No bad shows after COVID. That's what I say.
Right.
Number 1 for me, John Mayer. Anytime John Mayer.
I was waiting for John Mayer on this.
I know,
Like, there's no John Mayer.
What is going on?
I don't know what
I have one, and this guy doesn't.
What do you think?
Number 1. I got to see him in Vancouver, actually, in 2017, and it was 15 years since he had been there the first time. He was on his Continuum tour the first time, and he made this joke. He was like, I don't know if there's anything in my life that I still like 15 years ago. He's like, he was thinking about technology from 15 years ago, or cars, or clothes, or, you know, almost anything else. And we packed that place out. It was crazy, because it's the first time he's been to Canada, like, well, at least BC, basically since then. He's popped up to Toronto, I think, a few times. But yeah, and we got to see him, and it was just like, it was beautiful. It was his Search for Everything tour. But my all-time favorite performance of his, like, that somebody else could go watch and be inspired by, is from the 2007 Where the Light Is tour in Nokia Stadium. And my favorite song from that, the whole thing's good. He starts out acoustic, and then he comes out with his trio, and then he comes out with his whole band. So he does 3 sets. Nice. And the album's structured like that. But my favorite song is Gravity on there. Same thing, 6/8 sort of slow vibe, like my Wasting My Time sort of same groove tempo.
Absolutely.
And it's structured to the point where you can tell that the band's super tight. Like, everybody knows their parts, and they're snugged up, and they're ready for it. But he also allows himself to just breathe at, like, the climax of that song. And it just builds, and it's a slow build. And eventually it's like, everybody's just balls out, right? The drummer's just smashing, and everybody's going, and the crowd's like totally right into it. And the best guitar solo I think I've ever heard. Emotionally, not technically, but emotionally. Yeah, it was incredible. And it was from that album, and that album always inspires me. I always pick up little things that I want to do at a gig, you know, even the way he structured the gig, or what songs to put where, you know, how he slowly gets the band all to come out at different times or whatever. And musically, yeah, just incredible, like flawless and exciting and emotional and poignant, and like everything that you want from a show I got from that show. So
Nice.
that's my favorite one.
That's cool. I mean, there's tons that you could have picked from. So I'm glad that you picked that one because I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering it correctly, yeah, that's definitely, yeah. Is that the, maybe I'm totally wrong here, but is that the same one where he first plays Free Fallin'?
Yeah.
Acoustically?
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
We've even
So
done
it's
that in
one.
our
And
sets.
I think
Like,
that he
I love
also
that.
starts off with, what's it called? But it's like totally solo and acoustic. It's
He starts with Neon.
Neon,
That's the name,
which
yeah.
is one of like the hardest technically songs to play on guitar. I remember I probably spent like 3 weeks trying to learn it like a year ago or during COVID
Oh, wow.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I can't. Just because like the way that I would do it would be like me ripping him off that I wouldn't want to try and
It wouldn't
do
feel
that.
authentic. Yeah.
Right? It's the same way why I'm worried about playing like a Beatles song. Like I don't want to disrespect
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
right? And then
absolutely.
say that like this is our version of it, right? If it's not up to par with Imagine or something like that, right? So
Yeah. That's so cool. That's funny because as you were saying it, I'm like, John Mayer and Nokia. Like, I'm not the John Mayer fan you guys are. I think he's amazing and I totally respect him. But, yeah, I was like, why would I know that? I'm like, try, and then, yeah. So the light bulb just went off as you said that. That is where that Free Fallin' version would have came from. And I love that version.
Yeah.
Truthfully, like I'll even sneak peek, like we're going to be playing after, the way our set's going to go is Jeremy's going to lead off on the 25th on our album release. He's going to start at 8:00. Doors open at 7. So this is a good time to kind of talk about this. And Jeremy's going to give us an hour and 50 minutes. Kind of, we'll just go by the flow and we'll have a good time. But when Jeremy's done his set, Loops we're going to give some time for people to check out Jeremy's merch, kind of relax for a couple seconds, get some drinks. And then Loops, we're going to play our album. Jeremy has it right in front of him here. And we're going to play songs 1 through 11 in order, give some stories for each song, make it really intimate. It's kind of being the goal. And it's probably the only time we're ever going to do that, like we said last episode. After that, we'll take a short break again, but we're going to jam a little bit, the three of us, because we've done it before. We've done it at that local artist showcase we did last year. It'll be a lot of fun. We're not guaranteeing that we would be doing that song, but Free Fallin' is a perfect one I would love to do with you guys because it was so cool the way he did that. I absolutely loved it. And I think the three of us would crush that version of that song.
3-part harmony, man.
I'm into that.
Woo, it'd be so good. So good.
We'll keep that in mind.
It's on the short list.
It's on the short list.
No
We'll
guarantee it's
definitely-
going to be there, but
Yeah.
just give you a tease on the magic you might get with Loops and Kneeshaw.
It'll definitely
Peek
be
behind the curtain.
absolutely
Exactly.
It'll be super, super cool. Which I think is a cool way to tie into our last segment of
Exactly.
the day, which is what's coming up.
Yep.
Right. So we're gonna talk about kind of what's going on over the next week or so. Jeremy, we want to hear about what you've got going on as well in your life and what you're looking forward to. And it doesn't have to
In
be
general,
the next week. You can say
with us,
like,
we
what's-
go each week, but with you, it's what you got kind of on deck kind of coming up.
So Kev, what's going on this week?
Basically, I've caught up on my posters. We actually were able to be contacted ourselves by a gentleman out in Kelowna that has a really cool database, EI Kelowna, and he has it for a bunch of different cities. And he wants to kind of help us get a bunch of gigs outside of Kamloops. I want to kind of further that relationship, foster that a little bit, and continue kind of looking at different avenues for booking stuff. Yeah, the big thing is just really, even though we have a gig coming up on Friday, the 18th.
The 18th.
Yeah, at Match. That's our first time playing Match. Jeremy, you've played Match before?
Yes.
What would you say about Match? What were your thoughts on playing the venue? And it seems pretty fun. It seems like a pretty awesome venue to play. And
It's cool. Yeah, it's a nice vibe.
yeah.
Late night vibe.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what we're kind of hoping for. So we're excited about that because we played Barside a couple times already. And it's been two of our better shows. They've been fantastic. We sold hundreds of dollars of merch, and which was just a reflection on the vibe of the crowd. When we're selling lots of merch, if we're ever excited and talking about it, it's not a dollar figure thing as much as it's just, if people are buying merch, that means they're really enjoying your show and they want something to capture that moment and remember it later. So it's the biggest, it's a nice honor to us. It's a point of pride. So that's, we're hoping to translate that at playing at Match as well. So we got that coming up on Friday. And then, just prepping for the whole point of us having Jeremy on this week is so we have lots of time to kind of get this out there, remind everybody that the album release party is coming. Sending out some personal reminders to people that have told me they let us know when the album release party is coming, and I'll get a ticket. Trying to make sure those people are there too, so it's really intimate, and just hyping it up and letting everybody know that this is coming.
Yeah. Even beyond that, I mean, pretty much just touching on what Kev was talking about as well is, we're going to be trying our best in the next couple of weeks to lock down everything with our
tour.
upcoming tour dates. So that's going to be one of the biggest things, especially
Absolutely.
as the weather is turning and golf is readily available.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously we're big golfers and working at Rivershore when we aren't doing this. So, yeah, it's just going to be important getting all those things taken care of before we start doing that.
Exactly. Yeah, because that's going to take. We're pretty candid, both of us. You started there last year. I picked up a couple shifts a week. I'll be doing as well when I don't have Sebastian at Rivershore. So we both were like, hey, we're full-time musicians. This is our career. This is our full-time gig. But if we can help supplement the income a little bit by doing something we enjoy, both work at the club that we actually already had memberships to anyway. So shout out to Rivershore. But we are both pretty candid about that hey, in a moment's notice, if the actual career itself allows us to not have to do that, then we happily will say, hey, respectfully, here's some notice, and we don't have the time to do this anymore. Yeah. And that's the goal. Everyone there at the actual course is super supportive of that, and they get that too. So yeah, that is coming, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh God.
So all that being
gotta
said,
work.
Jeremy, what do you got going on, man?
I got a show tonight at Chance's, but I guess, the release date will be a little bit different. I got a bunch of clients in the studio. We're working on, there's a lady from France who's doing some French folk music recordings. She's doing an album with me. Translates the lyrics for me as we're working on it. Super interesting stuff.
Cool.
I'm working on another album of my own, but I mean, every artist says that. So I mean, I have it, but it's not ready yet. So I don't have a date or anything, but it's coming. And lots of shows coming up. I mean, where the casinos starting to get more private gigs and stuff. I do lots more hired gun stuff than I do my own, like my own Jeremy Kneeshaw shows, which I like, and I enjoy that too. I mean, things are coming back for full bands again, and there's going to be more options for like big dance bands and parties and house parties, and
which is gonna be great.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun this summer. I've got a feeling we're just on the verge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got like your dual and piano stuff you do with Brendan Mitho.
Yeah,
right?
That's super fun. I'm part of another band called the Daytime Highs, and they're like the throbby trance dance band that I was mentioning earlier. In my band, I mean, I've got incredible players that I am blessed to be able to join me when they can, and it's fun. I'm happy with all the bands I'm in. I'm content musically, so it's nice.
Perfect.
Well, we're super glad that you were able to join us not only today, but also for our album release party on the 25th. Yeah. As we've mentioned tons, go and check that out. You can find it on our website. You can go find all that information through the FE Arts Collective page.
Get your tickets now, like we said. Check out Jeremy's music too. He's awesome. Like, we wouldn't have him on here just because of the fact that we're doing the show with him. That's the honest truth. It's because we're inspired by him. We built a good friendship with him. He's just a fantastic artist, and we would, if need be, we would happily have just done ourselves doing a show without anybody on the stage. The fact that Jeremy's there is just because we feel it's an addition to the night and it complements the night more than we're just doing it because we need to have another body up there for an hour. We would rather just do a 2-hour show and have 2 hours of meet and greets. But this is a bonus, and we felt that our supporters deserve to see Jeremy throughout that night as well too. So please get intimate and get used to his music and get an idea on what he's going to bring to the table. And we hope everybody enjoys it as much as we know they're probably going to enjoy it when they see him live on the 25th.
Awesome. Thanks again, Jeremy, so much for coming in today. We truly appreciate it. We look forward to working with you. 2 weeks. We'll be in touch lots around then.
Yes, 2 weeks. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
It was a blast, man. Thanks for coming out. And other than that, John, anything else you want to say, buddy?
That's pretty much it for today.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for episode 7. Till next time, keep on keeping on.